Welcome back to another episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. And we are finishing our pre-training camp position breakdown. Last week we did linebackers, both inside and outside. This week we are going to the back end and we are covering the secondary. So today we'll be discussing the cornerback and the safety position entering training camp. So if you guys haven't been keeping track of all the movement that's been on the team, I will give you a list of all of the corners and safeties that we have on the team. I give you a brief description of who they are, what they bring to the team, and where I think they fall in the pecking order. So should be a very interesting show. As you guys know, this show is fueled by Fifth Coordination. So if you would like to join in on the conversation, got any questions, got any comments, just want to discuss Cowboys topics in general, feel free to get in the comments. Let me know who you are, how long you've been a Cowboys fan, where you live, any information you guys want to discuss. This is an open space for Cowboys fans, and unlike other podcasts, I won't charge you any stars. I won't make you send me any money for me to put your comments and questions on the screen. And we got Jeffrey Dunnigan joining us off top, longtime friend, longtime Cowboys fan. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us tonight. Appreciate you tuning in. For those of you who want to follow Jeff's lead, if you're watching from Facebook or YouTube, feel free to get in the comments. I see we got quite a few people watching us on X. So if you guys would like to join in on the conversation on X, first of all, first option, you can go over to Facebook and type in DC4L. It is a huge Facebook group, about 20,000 fans, about 15 moderators. So we monitor the group extensively. A lot of great dialogue, a lot of great questions, a lot of great information. Just the overall safe space for Cowboys fans. We're getting close to football season, which means we will be entering fantasy football season as well. And in DC4L, we have about 17 fantasy football leagues ranging from $10 all the way up to $250. So if you think you're one of the best people at fantasy football, go over to DC4L, sign up for one of those fantasy football leagues. The more expensive the group, the better the prize. So if you're playing in a $10 league, it's basically just beginners. Just a group to go in and dialogue and test your skills against other guys. Winner takes the pot. As you go up in leagues, $25, $50, there will be some prizes attached to it. And if you join a $100 league or a $250 league, you can win autographed helmets, autographed jerseys, things of that nature. So if you don't want to join in on the conversation and you're just looking for a fantasy football league, come on over to DC4L Facebook group and join in to find out how you can join in the conversation, win prizes, or enter into one of the fantasy football leagues. And for those of you who don't have Facebook, which I'm aware a lot of people don't, everybody has access to YouTube. So if you want to go over to YouTube and type in DC4L, you can also find the YouTube channel for DC4L. And you can also find me at Bluff City Cowboys. Hit that bell, hit that subscribe button so that you can stay involved and up to date with all the latest news and notes Dallas Cowboys. The closer we get to the season, the more content we will be putting out. So we're going to be here pretty consistently. So if you guys enjoy what we talk about and want to learn more, feel free to find me on YouTube at Bluff City Cowboys. And for those of you who are watching from Facebook, if you would like, please share this broadcast. Share it to your personal page. Share it to your favorite Dallas Cowboys group. We try our best to be as informative and non-biased as possible. So if you just like interactive conversation where we just talk about the facts and we don't try to sorry, I'm keeping up with NBA news at the same time I'm doing the show. But if you don't like hot takes, this is definitely the show you want to be at because I try my best to give you guys information that is unbiased based off of what I've seen and what is out there. All right. And also, as you guys know, I don't like to hold you for long. So this is a 1 hour show, 1 hour show max. Cover my topics. If you guys don't have any questions or comments, we get out of here. And then I'll see you guys next week. So let's go ahead and get into it. The topic of tonight's show is position breakdown, and the positions we will be breaking down are cornerback and safety. So we got a lot of talent in this group, and I'm excited to see how this pans out throughout training camp and the preseason. And once again, if you'd like to join into the conversation, if you're watching from Facebook or YouTube, just get in the comments. I will put all comments on the screen as long as they're not vulgar or derogatory. I see we got Jeff with another comment saying, I still won't blend in the slot with Caleb at safety. From the way it sounds, I don't think you're going to get your wish, Jeff. But once we get in training camp and the pads get on, you never know what's going to happen. Let's go ahead and go into my notes. I got about 7 slides. So if you guys don't leave a lot of comments, I should get through these pretty quickly. But once again, if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to join in. I'll put all comments on the screen. So we'll start off with the cornerback position first. Now, at the cornerback position, we have 2 rookie corners. Caleb Downs, drafted first round, pick 9, played safety most of the time in college. So people thought, including myself, that he would be projected to join this team as a safety. But contrary to what we believed, all signs out of the media have indicated that Caleb Downs is going to get his first shot at the nickel corner position. Super talented guy, super smart, super athletic. He definitely can play nickel just as well as safety. So this is not a drop off. I'm actually looking forward to seeing him in real competition to see how he performs. Now, I want you guys to remember, before we get to camp, our slot receiver is arguably the best slot receiver in the NFL, in CD Lamb. Multi-time Pro Bowler, all-pro wide receiver. So if training camp starts and we see Caleb Downs have some growing pains, let's not just write him off as if he's going to be a bum. He's literally getting thrown into the fire against one of the best slot receivers in the NFL. I think we're still going to see him cross train between corner and safety, but for now he is listed as a corner. And then in the 4th round, we turned around and drafted another cornerback, Devin Moore out of Florida. This kid has tons of potential. If you're looking for height, weight, speed at corner, he is the epitome of all of those. Didn't have a lot of playing time in college due to injuries. That's one of the reasons he fell to the 4th round. Honestly, if he would have been a guy who played 10 games last year, he probably would have been a 2nd round pick. That's the type of talent that he has. So he's just not going to be a guy who sits back and tries to make the team. I think he's going to have a chance to make an impact and possibly push some of the guys on the back end of the roster off the team. But he's super competitive, super physical. He's mainly a boundary corner, so he's probably going to be playing a lot with the 2nd and 3rd unit on the outside. If he plays with the 3rd unit, he's going to flash a lot because that's the kind of talent he has. If he plays to the 2nd unit, I think he's still gonna do well, but he's gonna have some growing pains because he didn't play a lot last year, and this is still a step up in competition. We got Keystone Cowboy joining us, longtime viewer. Appreciate you for joining. He says iron sharpens iron plus Deron belongs in the slot. You and Jeff and myself are all on the same page. We think this team would be best if Deron Bland was in the slot, but we've got a new defensive coordinator. He's cut his teeth in the league as a cornerback specialist. We gotta trust what he says right now. Going back to the linebacker position, I don't think Leofau is playing outside linebacker, and I'm leaning more towards Caleb Downs won't be playing nickel corner. Um, I think they're just trying to cross train them to see what we got. Um, but I'm with you guys. I think he may get some reps in the nickel because as of right now, we don't know who we have that can play nickel. Can Kalen Carson stay healthy? Can Kobe Durant play in the slot? Is Darion Kendrick going to make the roster? I'm pretty much going through all the corners now. But we don't have an established nickel corner other than Deron Bland. So he has the talent. I think they're just doing this in a pool or break glass in case of emergency. Deron Bland gets hurt, which he has been for several years, or Deron Bland is looking well outside and they can slide him inside. And then hopefully you don't have a big drop out. But I'm with you guys. I think he plays safety. I'm excited about Devin Moore. One thing I did notice when you look at the guys that the coach brought in, not the free agent guys, but the young guys, he's getting 6'3", 4'3" speed, long arms, physical guys. We'll talk about the other one later in the show. All right, let's see. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. AI has been real good to me. So I'm finally embracing technology and trying to step up my graphics game. And absolutely, I think that's gonna really be his how he makes the team is defending the run. And now that CJ Goodwin has retired, there's an open spot at that gunner jammer position opposite Elijah Clark, if Elijah Clark makes the team. So if Devin Moore can't get on the field on defense, he definitely has an opportunity to be a core special teams player if he can stay healthy. Keystone says Leofau needs to be the Mike. That's where his college bang came from. 1,000% agree. I never believed Leofau was gonna play outside linebacker. I said it the day they showed it, and I'll say it again. Before the draft and free agency, we had nothing at outside linebacker. We had Ezaraku, who was coming off an injury, and I think we had just traded for Rashawn Gary. Hadn't signed anybody yet. That was it. They came out prematurely and said Leofau's going to cross train outside. I think once we started signing Sam Williams and Ezaraku looks like he's going to be healthy, we draft Lawrence, and then we draft Barham, who played inside and out. I think that Leofau outside experiment is going to stop before it even starts. So I'm right there with you guys. I think he makes a great Mike. He has all of the tangibles that Barham had. And just like Keystone said, he made his bang in college as a true Mike. So he's basically Barham with more Mike experience. I don't see them putting him outside. I think he's going to start off camp with the linebackers, and I think he's going to stay there throughout camp. I would be shocked if we see any consistent footage of Leofau lined up outside. All right, we got Joey Alexander joining us. He says, I think this year will be like the Rams last year, have a lot of good pieces but fall short by an inch, then next year I would go for the best pass rushers and or a second good wide receiver. Great comments. Um, I can see that. I could definitely see that being a possibility. But I wouldn't necessarily say the Rams because the Rams have a super talented team. And I just want to pump the brakes for a second because I know fans are super optimistic, and I'm optimistic too. But on this show, we got to pull back to reality a little bit. As much as I love the moves that this team made, we had one of the worst defenses in NFL history last year. I know they were listed at 32nd because that's the lowest we can go. But honestly, we're probably like 39 or 40. That's how bad the defense was. So, oh, I think I hit the wrong button. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to magically become a top 20 defense. The Rams have a top 10 offense, top 10 defense. I don't think we can do that, but I think we can do good enough to make some improvements. 10 and 7, 11 and 6, um, and just give us some hope for the following year. But I do agree with you, Joey Alexander. Next year, we definitely should be looking for a pass rusher, and we should probably be looking for a linebacker. But that's all dependent on what we see from Flournoy this year. Flournoy has a chance to solidify himself as the a solid number 3, possibly a number 2 guy. So let's see what Flournoy does. Let's not just count him out yet. And we'll talk about receivers probably in a week or two. So we'll get on that as well. All right, we got Marcus Caviar joining us. Appreciate you joining. I think we can beat them this year. That's wishful thinking, Marcus. I personally think the Rams are the best team in the league. I said this before the Myles Garrett signing, and the Myles Garrett signing solidifies it. I think the Rams are going to be very hard to beat for anybody because that offense, I think the only thing that can stop the Rams this year is injuries because they have no holes. The only hole they had was at cornerback, and they filled that one with the trade with the Chiefs. And then they doubled down and added another defensive position that makes it harder to pass the ball. So I don't see a weakness on that team. It's going to be tough, but I love the optimism. I see we got Ice Cold Cowboy joining us. Please follow his lead. Hit that like button. We got quite a few views right now. The views are still going up. So if everybody could, please hit that like button. Let's get those likes to match those views. Yeah, I agree. We're definitely not getting any worse. We can only get better. I'm not quite there with you, Jeff. I gotta see training camp. I don't think we can easily be top 15. I think we can get to top 20. I gotta see how it gels on the field to stay top 15. Got Jack Meeker joining us. Jack Meeker, appreciate you tuning in. Having our secondary lineup properly will be refreshing, as well as our linebackers, Jack Meeker. Get those linebackers lined up, get that secondary lined up. A lot of smart guys. Shouldn't be a lot of guys out of position this year. I think that's definitely going to make a huge difference, but I don't know if it's going to be top 15 good. Jack Meeker says, I'm excited to see Trick. We'll talk about tight ends in a couple of weeks before training camp. Keystone says, our defense will not be the worst this year. As far as I'm concerned, that's progress. Absolutely. This offense is going to be top 3. So you don't need a lot from the defense to be competitive. I mean, we've watched the Bengals do it for 5 years now. We've watched people won't say it, but we've watched the Eagles do that. They have a lot of names, but that defense has not been that good on the field. and they've been able to get by. I'm trying to think of another team. Um, the Chargers, another team. They have some names, but that defense hasn't really produced, and they've been effective. All we need to see is improvement, and I think our offense can still carry the load for another season. Ice Cold Cowboy saying the Rams are sheep in Rams clothing. Yeah. Keystone said LT Overton, he's a fan of him. We talked about him last week. If you want to hear what I said about him, feel free to go back and watch last week's show. Jack Meeker says, I'm excited to see what good coaching looks like. I agree that the Chargers are overrated, but I'm just going by a team that had a underperforming defense with a good offense, and they ended up making the playoffs. I think we can do the same thing. All right. Appreciate all the comments, guys. Let's keep them coming. Let's go back into our slides. So we talked about the rookies. Let's talk about the guys who are returning. Now, I touched base on this a little bit when I talked about the nickelback position. So we have 4 returning corners. We got the veteran Deron Bland, and then we've got the young guys. We got Josh Butler, who's been here 2 years, who's been injured both years, basically. We've got Kalen Carson, who's been here 2 years and has been injured both years. And then we got Siobhan Revel, who's been here 1 year and was injured the entire year. On top of Deron Bland, who's been injured 2 out of, 4 or 5 years. The question from this group is, can they stay healthy? I know I'm in the minority on this one. Hey, you're right about that. I'm just trying to get the people up there. I can't get everything I want yet, Jeff. It takes a little bit longer to get the faces and stuff. So I know I'm in the minority on this one. I like all 4 of these guys. I know fans want to destroy Kalen Carson, but his rookie year, when he was healthy, he was a average to above average corner. When he got hurt later in the year, they started whipping on him a little bit. But the first 3 to 4 games that he played, he looked really good. And he's been dealing with the injury since then. So I'm excited to see him. He's kind of an inside outside guy. So I think he's going to be competing with Downs to see who can be that backup nickel or that starting nickel if they decide to keep Bland outside. Same thing with Josh Butler. Very small sample size with Josh Butler. But when he was on the field, the sample size looked really, really good. So dealing with the injury that can kind of take some of your athleticism away. Didn't see him last year. I'm excited to see him on the field this year as well. I think Butler's more of a true nickel guy. So he's definitely going to be in the mix at that nickel spot. They'll probably try him a little bit outside because of his intangibles or his tangibles. And then we got Siobhan Revel, 2nd round rookie. Most people thought he should have been a 1st round pick. I'm sorry, 3rd round rookie. Most people thought he should have been a 1st round pick. He didn't get any OTA practice. He didn't get any training camp. He didn't even get to practice with the team until like week 11. He came in and played like 4 games, and he looked bad. And fans want to butcher the kid. But remember everything I just said. No OTAs, no training camp, no practice reps during the season. And then he gets thrown into the Wolves against who do we play those last few games? The Eagles and I can't even think of who we played the last 4 or 5 games. But he was definitely thrown to the Wolves. This year, he's been active in all the OTA stuff, minicamp stuff, and he gets to go into training camp. He has every trait you want. Physical specimen, long arms, physical corner, and he has some real teachers who are going to help him grow. But All of these guys are going to rely heavily on can they stay healthy. If all four stay healthy, it's gonna be a really, really good secondary, in my opinion. Because I think Revel has first round talent. I still think Carson has second round talent. And then you throw in Downs and um the corner from Florida, which I think he has second round talent. That's a lot of young talent on the field. We just gotta hope that they can stay healthy. Let's see. Jack Meeker says people have to trust CP's track record with DBs. They have some good surprises. Absolutely, Jack Meeker. Um, People can't look at what he did with Green Bay and with Denver and with the Eagles and then not think that he's not going to come here and make at least one of these corners significantly better than they were in the past. That's just that's just being extremely negative for no reason. Yeah, Rebel does have a lot to prove. I agree. Keystone says I like to see Rebel wheeled in slow because he has rushed back last year when he shouldn't have been redshirted. 1,000% agree with that. He should not have played a snap last year. If you know football, just like I said, if you are a rookie and you have no OTAs, no mini camp, no training camp, and you don't get to practice with the team until week 10, you're gonna look bad when you get thrown out there. They should have shut him down for the year, just like they did with Jalen Smith his rookie year. Sit him down, let him practice, maybe let him run around and get some special teams in just to get on the field and see and get the environment. But he should not have played a snap of a cornerback last year unless it was the last game. So again, we have 4 returning corners. We got a lot of corners on this team. Between these first 2 slides I just showed you, that's 6 corners. In an average year, we only keep 5 corners. So I've just showed you 6, and I still have 2 more slides of cornerbacks left. So it's gonna be a lot of guys that are gonna be competing for a spot on this roster. So now we go to our next slide and we talk about the free agents. So, got 3 free agents. First one is Kobe Durant. He was one of our marquee free agents. Ton of NFL starting experience. Got him from the Rams, which quite a few people talked about the Rams in the comments. He can play inside and outside. I think he's going to be primarily an outside corner on this team. Um, I think you could pencil him in as a starter on the outside, and then the other guys can kind of fight their way to wherever you need them to be. Next corner, Darion Kendrick. Jeff says I can scratch him off the list. He's a Clemson guy, so you know I always got to hype him up until I can't anymore. Has a ton of NFL experience. Kendrick is gonna be one of those guys who's gonna give you some sound bites, who's gonna give you some big personality hype plays in training camp that are gonna make fans fall in love with him. He is uh he is a play to the whistle type guy. He's a dog. I'll put it out there. He's gonna give you some sound bites. He's gonna get in some corner spaces, especially our first inter inter team practice is against the Rams, and Darion Kendrick was on the Rams last year. So you best believe if Kobe Durant doesn't cause a ruckus, Darion Kendrick's definitely going to cause a ruckus. Um, Super smart player, great ball skills, not the most athletic guy, but he normally makes up for it with football instincts and just overall football knowledge. I'm kind of with you, Jeff. I don't know if he's going to make the team, but he's definitely gonna make it very difficult for one of those other 4 guys on that other screen I just showed you. If any of those other 4 guys get hurt, don't be shocked to see Darion Kendrick at the bottom of our secondary group because none of those other guys have the experience that he has. He's gonna come in and look good for the simple fact that he's a professional and he's smart and he's gonna stand out in the classroom in training camp. And really, that's how you make a team. And then last but not least, we've got Amir Speed, one of those XFL, USFL guys. Ton of upside, 6'3", 6'6" wingspan, 4.3 speed, everything that Christian Parker likes. For him to get brought in, he has a sponsor somewhere. So that's gonna make it difficult for a Josh Butler or a Kalen Carson because somebody brought him in to compete. And I think he's gonna be really good as one of those third unit cornerbacks. So if I'm looking at what I've showed you guys so far, I would probably guess the first unit is gonna be Durant, Bland, and Downs. The second unit is probably gonna be Kendrick, Carson, and Reddy Stewart. And then the third unit is gonna be Speed, Butler, and whatever other corners we got on the team. And we'll talk about those in a minute. Yeah, absolutely practice squad. And to be honest, he would be happy with practice squad because he would make more on the practice squad than he would make going back to the USFL. So this is one of those guys who's going to come here. He's got nothing to lose. He's on the team right now. The absolute worst case scenario for him is he gets cut and he goes to the practice squad making $200,000 a year. And if he does that, he'll be making a whole lot more than the $58,000 they pay in the USFL. So this is one of those guys who's going to come in and play with house money, probably going to play with his hair on fire. And guys like this are dangerous to guys who were drafted here. Going back to this screen, a guy like Amir Speed is going to be dangerous to a Kalen Carson or a Josh Butler. Guys who were drafted here or guys who've been here for 3 years and they start to feel like the only reason I'm not established is because I've been hurt. So they're going to feel like maybe I'm coming in and I'm going to have a leg up and kind of not be as intense. A guy like Amir Speed is going to make it hard for them, similar to how Turpin did when he joined the team and he ran some guys on the bottom of the roster out. But yeah, I agree. Kobe Durant is a dog. Him and Kendrick, they're definitely going to be guys who set the tone at practice. Jack Meeker says Kobe has a starting spot until Bland proves he's healthy. Let's see. I didn't forget Revel. He was on the screen with the returning players. So yeah, we got the returning players right here. I think Revel's spot is secure on the team. He gets at least one more year. So I'm not even including him in the Kalen Carson, Josh Butler conversation. He's guaranteed a spot for at least 1 year. All right. So free agents. Durant's going to be penciled in as a starter. Kendrick is going to make it tough for some guys. So I'm interested to see that one. If the coaches love Kendrick, they're going to make it real difficult for Josh Butler or Kalen Carson. I mean, unfortunately, He may make it tough for Devin Moore, and I like Devin Moore, but he is a fourth round pick. You can let a fourth round pick go. It all depends on who has the bigger sponsor. All right, so now let's go to the last of the corners. This is the best of the rest. We got Reddy Stewart. A lot of fans forgot about him. He was essentially our starting nickel corner last year. Another hard-nosed player, a little bit undersized, but plays feisty, smart guy. He's a true nickel corner. He's not playing outside at all. So the only way he makes this team, he has to really ball out in practice. Now, I think I just said they're probably going to give him the second unit crack as the nickel corner. So the question is, can he hold off the other guys? If he can hold off the other guys and show that you don't have to play downs at nickel, you can put him at safety and I can take over this backup spot, he'll probably make the team. If not, it's going to be real tough for him to make the team. And then you got Zion Childress, a guy that you guys know if you've been following this show for the past year. I'm super high on Zion Childress. I think when I look at how Christian Parker has developed corners, the corners that he's developed have all been in the Zion Childress mode. When you look at the two corners from the Eagles, and then you look at the corners from the Packers, Zion Childress fits that mold. He can play corner or safety. So if you decide to go long at one position, he can be either one. It's going to be hard for him to make this final roster, though, because like I said, they rarely keep more than 5 corners. And I just listed you guys. Let me go through and count again. 2, 6, 9. That's 11 corners I just showed you guys. So at some point in training camp, we're going to cut more corners than we keep. So before we go to safeties, I'm just curious. Get in the comments for those of you who have been commenting. Before we get into training camp, who do you think are going to be the 5 corners that make the team? I'm just curious what you guys' thoughts are. Who do you think are going to be the 5 corners that make the team? If I'm going right now, I'm not counting Downs as a corner. I'll start there. I think Downs is going to be a safety. So my 5 corners are going to be Durant, Revel, Bland, Moore, and I almost feel bad for Carson. I think it's going to be between Carson and Kendrick. Carson has to stay healthy. If any cornerback gets hurt in training camp, unless it's one of those top 3 I named, you could pretty much X them off the roster. If Durant, Bland, or Revel get hurt, they're safe. Anybody else, if they get hurt in training camp, you could pretty much say they're going to have to clear waivers to stay on this team. We're going to get the safeties in a minute, Keystone. I got your comment highlighted. Jack Meeker says, I like Zion now that our full-time special teams corner retired. Zion can slide in there. There are going to be quite a few guys who are going to be competing for that key special teams role. I think Darion Kendrick's going to be one of them. I think Devin Moore is going to be one of them. I think Zion Childress is going to be one of them. And that's going to probably help determine that 5th cornerback spot. Let's see what we got so far in the comments. And I appreciate you guys for commenting. Jeff has Durant, Bland, Moore, Revel, Carson. Okay. Keystone has Revel, Bland, Moore, Durant, Kendrick. That's pretty much what I said too, Keystone. I think you can probably swap out Kendrick and Childress, but I'm kind of on the lines with you. And Jack Meeker has Revel, Durant, Bland, Carson, Stewart. I can see that as well. My only problem with what you have, Jack Meeker, that's a lot of nickels. I think Carson is a nickel, Bland is a nickel, and Stewart is a nickel. I think it's going to be hard for Stewart to make this team unless Downs goes to, and I see you don't have Downs either. I see none of you guys have Downs actually. So I'm assuming you guys are all with me and you think Downs is going to be a safety and this is just a training camp experiment. If that's the case, that's fine. I'm right there with you. But yeah, Jack Meeker, I think that's too many nickels. I would probably swap out Carson and Stewart for a guy who's a little bit more suited to play outside. Ice cold cowboy throwing shots about Andrew Booth. I don't even know if he's in the league, to be honest. But yeah, I'm right there with you, Jeff. I think he's going to be a safety as well. All right, speaking of that, let's go ahead and go to the safety position. All right, so we'll start off first with our returning players. We got Malik Hooker and Marquise Bell. Malik Hooker is a returning starter. Got a ton of veteran experience. Leader on and off the field. Former first round pick out of Ohio State. So he's going to relate a lot to Caleb Downs, be a guy to kind of take him under his wing. Hasn't had the best 2 seasons, but I think a lot of that is because we had terrible play calling and coaching. I still think Malik Hooker is a top half of the league safety. Closer to that bottom part, but I think he's a top half of the league safety. Super intelligent guy. Another one of those guys I think will stand out in the classroom. He's reliable in coverage when he's surrounded by top level talent. I think the coaches are going to trust him a lot. I think he's going to be another guy who provides some veteran leadership to the younger guys. Then you got Marquise Bell, and Keystone talked about this. It's sad that Bell might get cut, and he hardly played his primary position. So, Keystone, I'm curious. What do you think is Bell's primary position? Just let me know. I'm curious about that. So, what I like about Bell, when you hear Christian Parker talk about versatility, he wants guys who can play multiple spots. Marquise Bell can play free safety. Marquise Bell can play strong safety. We've seen Marquise Bell play some linebacker. So if you want to go with kind of a small ball lineup, you can play 3 safeties on the field with Hooker, Thompson, and Bell, and you can play Bell like your nickel linebacker. He's big enough to cover tight ends and play in the box. He's athletic enough to cover his zone or carry a tight end, even carry a nickel if he has to. Yeah, I agree. He played free safety in college. We never got to see him there because he had to get thrown in at linebacker, and then he was basically an afterthought. But I think he can play free, strong, and a little bit of linebacker if you want to go some small ball. Jeff says, I don't think Bell gets cut. Typically, we keep about 5 corners and 5 safeties. Sometimes we'll keep 6 at one spot, but I think the numbers game at linebacker and inside and outside linebacker, I think that numbers game at that spot is going to prevent us from going long in the secondary. So I think some of this position flexibility is going to come in handy to get a guy on the field. I think we keep I think we go 5 corners, 5 safeties with 1 guy, kind of a flex guy. Now, will that flex guy be Caleb Downs? Will that flex guy be Zion Childress? I don't know, but I think we keep 5 and 5. If they do, Marquise Bell should make the roster. Um, I haven't said this before, but I wouldn't be shocked if one of these 2 guys gets traded during training camp. If if there's a team that suffers an injury and they need a safety in a pinch, there's very few teams in the league that have the depth at safety that we have and that have a guy who can come in and be a starter. If we traded Malik Hooker, we can throw downs at free and we're good. If we traded Marquise Bell, he's considered a backup. We'll still be good. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get closer to that first cut or that third preseason game, and instead of making a tough cut after the third preseason game, they trade to a team who needs a safety. Especially a team like the Commanders, who are pretty depleted already in the secondary and need help. And both of these guys were brought in by Dan Quinn. Jack Meeker says, I think Bell is primarily a strong. That's where they played him, but I think he can play some free if you need him to. Keystone says PJ Lott, Jalen Thompson, and Hooker are locks. I agree with that as well. I still think there's a chance Hooker could get traded, but Locke and Thompson are definitely on this team. And they're going to be probably your borderline green dot guys for your first and second units. I've said that several times about the linebacker spot. You don't necessarily need a traditional green dot because you've got Thompson and Locke, who I think can call your defense from the secondary. Ice cold cowboy with a little bit of Malik Hooker hate. Hooker's a mediocre potato salad. I think he's a little bit better than that. Jack Meeker says I always thought he was Dono's replacement. I mean, they were both on the team at the same time. So Bell was really just a man without a position. All right, so we've talked about the returning starters or returning players. Let's talk about the free agents. We've talked quite a bit about them already, but let's go ahead and put the screen up. So we got Jalen Thompson and PJ Locke. For you guys that aren't aware, the Cardinals did play a version of the scheme Christian Parker is going to be implemented. Our secondary coach and pass game coordinator Ryan Smith was the pass game coordinator for the Cardinals, who ran this scheme. Christian Parker handpicked Ryan Smith to come here, and Jalen Thompson was our first signing. So he's going to be our rock on this defense. He has experience with the scheme. He's super smart. He's a playmaker. He has a relationship with our pass game coordinator. He's going to be a borderline green dot on the field. I've said that 1,000 times about why we haven't taken any linebackers, traditional green dots, because it's going to be Jalen Thompson. Super high integrity guy, high football IQ. I think he's going to bring a lot to this defense. He's probably going to be the best safety we've had on this team. 10 years. This is a real top flight safety, not some guy we got to bring in and hope he succeeds. Jack Meeker said Thompson got more money than Jerry than he spent a decade on a free agent. I don't want to throw shade at Roy Williams or we had another Pro Bowler at some point. Name escapes me right now. Whatever safety we had that came after Roy Williams. Do we consider Byron Jones a safety, or is he a corner? Barry Church. He's much better than Barry Church. But yeah, he's the best safety since Barry Church. I'll agree with that. Let's see. Keystone says it's funny how Ryan Smith is the sponsor for Jalen, but not for Akeem Davis Gaither, and he was a linebacker at Arizona. That's a good point to make up, Keystone. I know you're always on it with free agency and stuff like that. I would I would probably say the reason for that is I think safety was a bigger priority. I've said since March, linebacker is not as big of a priority as the fan base made it out to be because I'm much higher on Shamar James than most people are. I'm much higher on Overshown than most people are. And I was confident they were going to bring in another linebacker because, like I said, they don't need a green dot linebacker. They just need somebody who knows how to read and react and play well in space. But the King Davis Gaither, that's a great point. He was on my short list of guys who could have been brought in, especially for the small contract that he got from the Colts. But I mean, I'm not upset about it. And you're right. I did murder James on draft day. I will be big enough to admit that. But his tangibles transition to the league a lot better than I thought they would. I knew he was a cerebral guy. I knew he had it in him to play Mike. I just didn't think at his size he was going to be able to hold up. But he played well in space and he made a ton of tackles. That's all you can ask for. But yeah, PJ Locke came from Denver, played with Christian Parker in Denver. Another guy who knows the scheme backwards and forwards. He's going to be another guy who's going to be a green dot type guy for you. Ideally, they would love to have Thompson and Locke both on the field, in my opinion. If they can have Thompson, Locke, and Downs as their safeties, I think they would be happy. That's why another reason I think that Hooker or Bell could be expendable. Because Thompson has a sponsor and Locke has a sponsor, and of course Downs has a sponsor. And this is another guy. Once you get in the classroom, he's going to shine. And it's going to make it a tough decision on what you do with these other guys. The only thing holding PJ Locke down is the potential for injuries. I think he had like a severe back injury that maybe one other player in NFL history came back from. He was able to play last year, but that injury is still kind of a ticking time bomb, so you don't know. But I think if he stays healthy on the field and off the field, he's going to make them have a very tough decision. Let's see. That's in the past, Ice Cold Cowboy. I don't know where he is. Really don't care. I see we got Lee Harrison joining us, another longtime viewer. Appreciate you joining us tonight. I really like both of these safeties. This is definitely the best safety group we've had in 15 years, from top to bottom. All four safeties could start on about 5 NFL teams. And we have all four of them under contract. Well, 5 safeties, including Downs. So we have, in my opinion, 5 starting safeties. So this is going to be a really competitive group. Keystone says, I was hyped when we drafted Shamar James, who was one of my dudes. I didn't think it would transition Keystone, but I liked him as a player, as a leader. I was pleasantly surprised that it transitioned. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, the fan base needs to get off of him. He made a bunch of mistakes last year, but you got to consider he was a late round draft pick, didn't get a lot of reps in practice, thrown into the fire, and he went out there and made 100 tackles on an awful defense. And he's only going to get better because now he has even better coaching. And I know that he's a super smart kid. Jeff says, I think we should bring Dono back. I don't think he fits the scheme anymore, Jeff. He would be a straight fish out of water if you brought him back on this team. Because all of our safeties have position flex. And all of our safeties have that a bit of that green dot to them. They're great in coverage. They can play in the box. They can read and react and call stuff out. All Donovan Wilson can do is hit. If he's outside of 15 yards, he's a complete liability. And I think one thing about this game that we haven't talked about, it's going to be a lot of split defense where you're going to have one safety back, one safety at the line. They may switch. They may both go back. They may jump in a zone. So you need guys who are smart and able to read and react. I don't think Donovan Wilson has that. If you put him deep, he's getting burnt. And if you put him in the box, that's all he can do. So I don't see that one happening. And even if you did, there's not a safety on this team I think he could beat out. And we have 5. And we're probably only keeping 5. So if you did bring him back, whose place is he taking? All right. So we talked about the returning players. We talked about the free agent signings. We talked about the best of the rest. I'm sorry, wrong screen. Best of the rest for the secondary and for the safeties. We've got Julius Wood and we've got Elijah Clark. Elijah Clark, the guy that made the big play against the Eagles last year, kind of become a fan favorite. He's a core special teams guy. The only way he makes this team is if he's your special teams guy. Now, from what we saw in minicamp, they had Caleb Downs as your personal protector on punt team. Now, you guys know how I'm about special teams. If you want to make a roster, I don't care what position it is. I don't care where you're buried at on the roster. Let me get back on the screen so I can say this. As a guy who watches a lot of special teams, one of my close friends is a college coach who cut his teeth in special teams, and now he's a head coach of a college. So I talk special teams a lot. If you want to make an NFL team, I don't care how bad you are on offense, how bad you are on defense, how buried you are on the roster, how many people are in front of you. If you can play punter, snapper, gunner, jammer, or personal protector, you're going to make the roster. That special teams coach is going to flip the table to keep you on their roster. And I think Elijah Clark has a chance to be gunner, jammer, or personal protector. So talking about him, he's going to be the guy that throws the monkey wrench at the bottom of the safety group. Because I don't think Downs, Thompson, or Locke are going to be core special teams guys. One of these safeties is going to be a special teams guy. And they're going to make it real tough for them to be cut. So I just want you guys to keep that in the back of your minds when training camp starts. Pay attention to who's the personal protector. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with special teams, the personal protector is when you're on punt team, there's a line of guys, and then there's the punter, and then there's a guy who stands right in front of the punter. That guy is the quarterback of the punt team. He's calling out who he thinks is blitzing. He's calling out whether the offensive line should slide to the left or right. He's picking up. He's the last line of defense for anybody who makes it through the cracks. So that is an extremely important position. Whoever gets that position and starts off there, they're making a team. I don't care who it is or what position they play. And I think it's going to be Elijah Clark that's going to be one of the front runners for it. Julius Wood, nice story, undrafted guy last year. He has no shot at making a team. He's going to be happy just to get that practice squad check again. But I just talked about all the other safeties. Elijah Clark is the guy who I think is going to make it very difficult for them not to keep 6 safeties or to make one of these other guys expendable. Because again, I said, all 5 guys we got, they're all capable of starting. So you don't really need all 5, but you do need a special teams guy. Let's see. Keystone said, I'm taking Wood over Clark. That special teams is going to do it, though, Keystone. Special teams is going to win out at the bottom of the roster. Jeff says Locke could be. That's true. But I think they're going to rely heavily on Locke as one of your defensive guys. I think we're going to see a lot of 3 safety looks in the defense where you have 3 safeties out there, and one of those safeties is kind of covering like a nickel. Because Jalen Thompson can cover in the slot, Caleb Downs can cover in the slot. So you could have Downs, Locke, and Thompson, or Downs, Hooker, and Locke. You can run some combinations like that. I think we're going to see a lot of 3 safety looks, especially if we get a situation where we're up and they have to pass the ball. I can definitely see some 3 safety situations. Let's see. Praying for Cinco. Clark is shifty. I know you're a big Syracuse fan too, Jack Meeker. So I know you always high on Clark like I am about my Clemson guys. Ice Cold said Downs is special. Appreciate the love, Ice Cold Cowboy. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy my breakdowns and my content. I don't even care about likes or subscriptions. I just like talking about this stuff because I talk about it all the time. If it was one person on here, I'd do it. So I appreciate you enjoying what I do. We'll talk about wide receivers in a couple of weeks, Ice Cold Cowboy. We'll definitely talk about that offensive side. All right, so let's see. Last but not least, we got the position flex guys. We've been talking about this. Zion Childress and Caleb Downs. They have Caleb Downs right now listed as a nickelback, but I think, and you guys agree, he's going to be playing a lot of safety. Right now, they have Zion Childress listed as a nickelback. I think he's another guy who may get some consideration at safety. Unfortunately, I think he has to try to churn his way out as a special teams guy or as a 5th corner to make this team. And I'm going to hate to see him get cut again because I really like him as a player. But yeah, these are our flex guys. I still think we're going to keep 5 corners, 5 safeties. There's going to be a guy who's going to be that 6th guy that's going to be hard to cut. It's either going to be, and I'm just putting out my prediction out there now, that 6th guy is either going to be Elijah Clark because he's too important for special teams, or it's going to be Zion Childress because he can play inside corner, outside corner, free safety, and strong safety. and they love that flexibility. So before we get out of here, I asked a question about cornerback. I think we're keeping 5 safeties. Let me know in the comments who you think those 5 safeties are. And I'll go through mine again. I'm counting Downs as a safety. Then you got Thompson, Locke, Hooker, Bell. I still think Bell or Hooker may get traded, and then I slide in Elijah Clark for special teams. That's kind of where I am. Let me know what you guys think in the comment. Who are your 5 safeties that you think make this roster? That's a good question, William Wiggins. We're keeping keeping 3 quarterbacks always, especially since the rules changed and now your third quarterback can be on the team but not count on your game day roster. It makes no sense for a team not to keep 3 quarterbacks anymore. So we're definitely keeping 3 quarterbacks. Jeff has Downs, Thompson, Locke, Bell, Hooker. I mean, I think we're all going to pretty much be in the same situation. And yeah, Jeff and I talk quite a bit about all these positions. Yeah, our conversations are pretty much dominated about Cowboys football. William Wiggins says who's going to be the quarterback too. I think it's a no-brainer, to be honest. I watched Joe Milton just throw potatoes into the ground and overthrow guys. Sam Howell's a decent quarterback. It doesn't take a lot to beat out Joe Milton. They're both young. Joe Milton was traded last year, so they kind of gave him some cachet, but now he's just another guy. Somebody brought in Sam Howell because he has a sponsor. Sam Howell has some NFL starting experience. And I think he has some mobility, has a strong arm. I think it's Sam Howell's going to be the backup. Jack Meeker said, yeah, that's the 4, but if we keep 5, I'm afraid Zion beats Clark out. Okay, let's not count Zion as a safety right now. So who are your 5, Jack Meeker? Yeah, I don't see any progression. I just see a guy. Every year teams fall in love with the high school type quarterback who comes to the league. Big, strong arm, mobile, but couldn't hit the side of a barn. Every year teams fall in love with it, and it never works out. I guess you would consider Josh Allen one of those guys, but outside of Josh Allen, it never works out. But teams keep falling for it every year. So yeah, his progression is definitely suspect. All right, Jack Meeker, Clark, Hooker, Locke, Thompson, and the Rook. Okay. All right. So last question. I said we're keeping 5 corners and 5 safeties. If we keep a 6th, who will it be and what position? If you say it's going to be a flex guy, that's fine. But who do you think that 6th guy is going to be? I'm on record. I still think if Elijah Clark is if he's your gunner, I'm sorry, if he's your jammer on punt return and he's your personal protector on punt, he's making the team. Somebody's going to have to find a way to make the roster elsewhere. But we got a lot of good gunner jammer candidates this year. Elijah Clark, Zion Childress, Marquise Bell if he doesn't get any burn on defense. Let's see who Trayshawn Holden could be a gunner jammer. I think who else I think could be a good gunner jammer candidate? They could throw Sam Williams back at gunner jammer like they did a couple years ago. There's a name that I'm missing. Devin Moore has a chance to be a gunner jammer. So yeah, it's a lot of guys that are vying for that special team spot that CJ Goodwin has left. Because I mean, he made a good career out of it. He got a good 5-year run of basically being guaranteed a roster spot. So if you're a guy who's at the bottom of the roster and you're looking to be guaranteed a nice salary for the next 5 years, they're all going to be gunning, no pun intended, gunning for that special teams A spot. So it's going to be a really good competition um, on punt return and punt team. So for me, again, Elijah Clark, I don't think they're going to play Caleb Downs at personal protector. So I'm going to pay close attention to who I see at training camp at personal protector. And if it's not one of the starting 5 corners or safeties, whoever it is, you can pretty much pencil them in. All right. So we're at an hour, 12 minutes. Great conversation, guys. Appreciate you guys again. You really brought it in the comments. We've talked about linebacker. We've talked about secondary. Next week, we will do defensive tackles. And then we'll probably pair that with the offensive position since there's not a lot of defensive tackles. I don't know which one I'll pair it with yet. Probably tight ends. But we will talk defensive tackles, and then we'll go over to the offensive side of the ball. So thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate all your support. Thank you guys who stuck with us consistently. Thank you guys from X who've been consistently watching. And hopefully you guys one day will join us on YouTube or Facebook so that you can get involved in the conversation. But if you choose not to, you are more than welcome to join us every Wednesday night at 8:30 Central Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, and X for the Fifth Quarter Podcast. We will be continuing our training camp breakdown. Next week, we'll be doing defensive tackles. And right now, I'm leaning towards defensive tackles and tight ends. So make sure you guys come back and join us. We'll be breaking down all of the players on the D tackle line and the tight end group. I'll give you my thoughts on all those guys who I think makes the team and why. And we'll be another week closer to training camp before they head out to Oxnard. Thank you guys for joining us. As always, appreciate your support. William Wiggins said, catch me up on linebacker. That was last week's show, William Wiggins. If you want to watch it, feel free to go on YouTube, hit that button. You can get through it pretty quick. Last week was a short show. So you could probably start about 15-minute mark. And then the next 30 minutes or so, I talked about all the linebackers. But make sure you join us next week, 8:30 Central Standard Time for the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Jones. As always, appreciate you guys for joining. And again, as always, let's go Cowboys. I will see you guys next week. Thank you for watching.